Hello, my name is Anuska and welcome to my channel. So on this week's video, I want to talk about this idea of oracy and is it a lost art form? And the reason I wanted to talk about this was because I was looking at some of the themes around why clients work with me, why they seek me out. And almost without fail, like 99.9% of people that I have any kind of contact with about voice coaching, it's always something to do with confidence, wanting to feel and sound more confident. So it got me thinking about oracy, which is the ability to express ourselves confidently, fluently, and effectively, to be able to think and speak simultaneously. But it's more than that, because it's actually showing up fully, it's being present, it's being deeply connected to your words, from your heart, from your soul, from your mind, from your body, from your breath, from your voice. And that's when great speakers really connect to their audience, because they're fully immersed and engaged in what they're saying. So why is this such a challenge for us? And I would say for all of us in some shape or form, we all have different levels of anxiety, different levels of struggle with this, but I think we all experience some level of anxiety around public speaking. So I've put these under two main headings, cultural and psychological, but of course they do intertwine. They're not separate, but it just for ease of this video, I thought I'd separate them out in that way. So the cultural side, we'll talk about first, because this is so huge. And I think the thing with culture is we don't often know that we're swimming in it. It's just how things are done. It's how people communicate, but we don't question it because it's just what everyone is doing. It's kind of like a fish in water. It doesn't question. Well, I don't know, actually, I haven't spoken to a fish, but I assume that they don't question whether they're in water. So it's the same for us. Our culture is just what we have agreed is our norms of doing things. And so in terms of communication, for most of us, we favor written communication over spoken communication. And obviously in our modern day, that might look like texts, WhatsApp messages, tweets, Facebook messages, instant messages, emails. Also, we can often find ourselves getting quite impatient with people who are long-winded when they speak, who are very wordy when they speak, you just think, will you just get on with it and get to the end of your sentence? So we've all probably experienced that before, where we just want someone to kind of hurry up and get to the end of what they're saying because we kind of know what they're going to say. So there's a kind of impatience with the spoken word, and there's a favor towards the written word. So when it's cultural, we're kind of swimming in it. We don't even realize that this is a thing. It's just what everyone does. We've all kind of agreed that this is how we do things. This is how we communicate. And so actually doing something outside of the norm would be almost perhaps a little bit weird. So that's the first one, cultural. Now, the second one is psychological. And you could argue that they, as I say, they interconnect, of course. So then we have to question, why do we, and I'm totally guilty of this too, why do we send an email or send a WhatsApp message when actually picking up the phone might be, sometimes it's quicker when you're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Many a time I've just picked up the phone because I think this is ridiculous. We could get this resolved in 2 minutes if we picked up the phone. So it's really interesting because actually when we speak, it's so much more confronting and it's so much more vulnerable. We haven't got the same mechanism to hide behind. And you see this at the most extreme way with internet trolls. The things that they write, they have a sort of an anonymous moniker that they use, which could be anything, and they could be anyone and they could be anywhere, and they just write the most hateful things, but they would never say that to the person's face, but they can hide behind it because it's written and no one knows who they are. So there's something that protects us when we are writing words versus speaking our words. It is so much more vulnerable to speak. Now, as children, for most children, obviously there are always exceptions to every rule, but for most children, fortunately, they have a voice that functions really well. You just spend any time around a toddler and they say exactly what they think. And however random it is, I was with my nieces at the weekend, they come out with the most random stuff and they don't care. And it's there from a young age. But as we grow up, as we start to become more conditioned by our culture, by our family, by our friends, by our peers, by our teachers, and the voice starts to be modified and shaped by our surroundings. So, for example, you may have grown up where you were discouraged to express yourself. You may have been criticized for having opinions. You may have been ridiculed for saying something which was wrong or silly, or it could also be that you were discouraged from sharing your opinions, or maybe you were told that you were argumentative if you disagreed. So all of this has an impact on how we then learn to express ourselves. And then we just sort of learn eventually, look, it's just easier if I just don't say anything at all, or I just say what I know is safe and acceptable. And I certainly felt this growing up. I remember very, very distinctly when I was at school and only asking a question if I knew in my heart it wasn't a stupid question. And because I got shamed for asking silly questions. So I learned that don't say anything if there's a chance this might be a stupid question. So that was something I took on very young, and that took me a while to work through that. But it's just those things that we don't even think about that have that imprint on us as children that we take into adulthood, and they have a really big impact on our voice and how we communicate. So then public speaking becomes this ultimate risk and social death, because we are social creatures. And if we think about our ancestors, I mean, literally, if you were ousted from the tribe or the group, you probably would die. You would either starve, or you'd get eaten by a wild animal, or you'd get eaten by another tribe. Like, you wouldn't survive. And so this is still in our DNA. So everything we're doing is about protecting ourselves and doing everything we can to not look like a fool, to not be criticized, to not be judged, to not be ridiculed. And obviously all of that comes out in the way we communicate and in the way we express ourselves. And for most people, writing things down means you can be a little bit more considered, you can think about it, you can think about the words you use. Whereas for a lot of us, speaking is much more immediate and in the present moment. And there's a chance we might not say the right thing, or it might not come out the way we wanted it to come out. So if we write it down, then it's a much safer option. And then I think also as adults, when we go into situations where we're putting ourselves out there in bigger ways, we might fear that we might upset people, or we might be politically incorrect. We might put our foot in it. We might say something that perhaps, was too much or not enough, or we didn't say the right thing. So then we're constantly trying to manage our voice and manage our words. And then, of course, the voice is not going to flow and it's not going to come out freely. So we bite our tongue, we suppress our voice, we can pull our voice back, literally. We can start to engage muscles to literally hold the voice in. And this is what I help people with all the time, because they don't know that they're holding loads of tension in their tongue, or their neck is really tense, or their jaw is really tense, because all of these are subtle ways that we hold the voice in. And then as a consequence with voice, I mean, we're holding our voice in, so the voice doesn't have that power, that strength, that ability often these days to really fill a room without a microphone. You'll see people that really have to strain to project their voice because they haven't had the practice or the skill to really train the voice, train the muscles, and get the voice really, really functioning. Because if it's just chit chat between you and your family or you and your colleagues, you don't probably think you need to put that much effort into the voice. But when you go into a bigger arena, maybe standing on a stage, then you want your voice to really function well. And so at the most basic level, yes, I mean, speaking is very natural, just like breathing. But much like if you were playing the piano, even if you didn't play the piano, anyone, whether you read music or not, could get some very basic, perhaps not the greatest tune in the world, but could get some kind of basic noise out of a piano. You don't have to understand the piano at all to do that. I mean, my cat can do that. But if you want to become a great pianist, then absolutely you have to put the time in, you have to train, you have to learn about music and understand chords and notes and time signatures and key signatures and all of the juicy stuff that I learn about. But it's the same with the voice. You know, if we want a voice that's really going to make a difference, make an impact, really allow us to show up fully and with presence, then it does require a series of well-oiled muscles in the mind and the body to get the voice functioning at its best. It's not going to happen by chance. Just like your body's not going to be strong by chance. You're going to have to do something to build the strength and the flexibility in your body. So it's no wonder that we shy away from public speaking. If you think about it from this perspective, you know, you can see why people favor the written communication. You can see why people avoid public speaking unless it's absolutely necessary. But I would say that if you're willing to go there, if you're willing to do the work and show up and actually really connect to your heart, your body, your mind, your soul, your voice, when you speak, your audience will thank you, because I do think people are really craving people that are really connected when they speak, because it's quite a rarity these days. And so if you are willing to do that work and you're really passionate about what you're talking about, I do think we are compelled to listen to people like that. Like, great speakers are like great musicians. You can't take your eyes off them. You want to watch them and you want to listen to them. So that's what's there. I think it's really allowing yourself to step into your true self, your true vulnerable self, which is the most scary thing in the world, but also ironically the thing that connects us with everyone. So thank you so much. I'd love to know if you have any thoughts or comments on this topic. If you do, please post them below. And thank you. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, share, subscribe, and I will see you on my next video.